All information given in this episode is for educational purposes and should not be tried prior to consulting a licensed physician and or certified state or accrediting bodies. We encourage all listeners to research, talk, and make all inquiries to all of the important professionals and governing bodies before acting on any information heard on the De La Fit podcast. Any action taken by any listener is done by and under their own omission and action, whether conscious to the results positive or not.
Tuned in to the De La Fit podcasts, 360 degrees of holistic fitness and health, all in one podcast.
Salutations and proclamations. It is I, it is you, it is us, it is we. Together we make up the digital family that is the De La Fit podcast. I'm your host, Philly's #1 son, aka the Body Alchemist, Sun Moon Bay, bringing you another podcast excursion. Welcome everybody. Happy Friday. I hope everybody is feeling good on this July the 31st. Pardon me. It is officially Leo season. That's right. Happy birthday to all my Leos out there. Ooh, excuse me. A little effervescence in there. A little burping going on. I don't know what's going on with there. But happy birthday to all the Leos out there. It's your season. I hope everybody's feeling good. It is a wet and rainy day on the East Coast. It's raining in Philadelphia and in parts of the East Coast. Much needed rain because it has been hot. I mean, it has been hot. It has been a solid heat wave going on for a while. We've been in the high. We've been in the middle 90s and sometimes the high 90s for about a good portion of the weeks, for at least 2 weeks straight, dropping down at times into the high 80s. I mean, it's summertime. It's almost August. So, it's something to be expected. But, darn it, it's been hot. I know I have friends in other places. I have a friend in Toronto, and they're like, it's hot. It is hot. It's just hot. When it's that point that you're just so frustrated because it's so warm and that you're just angry. It's been that type of hot. So, this rain comes as a much needed cooling off period. Today we have a great show for you. Before we get to that, I do want to apologize to a lot of our listeners. Last week we had some technical difficulties. With working with technology, there comes all types of different obstacles, perils, and things that you have to deal with, sometimes at a moment's notice. And for some reason, we just could not seem to get our show to upload at 1 o'clock. We typically are always and most consistently upload our show at 1 o'clock p.m. It goes live to everybody on 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, 10 a.m. Pacific. So we dedicate ourselves to make sure that it's uploaded, it's ready to go. And for some reason, it just did not. But the good people at our hosting platform, Anchor, they were gracious enough, after a quick email and after calling some of our tech support engineers, excuse me, they helped us to fix what was pretty much a minor issue. But we just wanted to apologize to everybody out there, because we know that you expect the show at a specific time, and we like to have it at that time. So we are very much committed to what it is that we put out and when we put it out. Also, that segues into this interview that you're going to hear today. It's done a little bit differently, or might sound just a little differently. We had some audio issues with this, I know you guys are just out there listening like, dang, you're having a whole bunch of problems. But, this is the new world. And when I say that, I'm not making any excuses, but I'm just saying that the sound issues that you might hear probably, from what we were able to figure out, is signal issues. So when we interview a lot of our guests, sometimes they're in their own home studios, sometimes they're in a studio, sometimes they are in their homes using a device. It could be a tablet, it could be a laptop, it could be their phone. And depending on where they are, because a lot of our guests most of our guests are all over the country. We don't just stick to one area of the country, and also the globe. We've interviewed guests from all over, from as far as Australia all the way to Canada, and we will continue. But signal is a big thing. So sometimes, depending on what's going on in an area, a storm or something of what have you, issues can come about. That's why we have our editors come through and try to make sure everything sounds smooth. But I'm a realist. I like all of you to understand and know what's going on. And the truth of it is that sometimes, we run into issues where we can't salvage everything, but we still have a good interview. There's enough to salvage. If we can't salvage it all, we'll do another interview. This interview still came out, what I think, pretty much very good. Now, there may be little points in it where you might have some, it might be kind of hard to hear. It might sound like the sound drops out. And it's really not because of myself or our guests. It's really because of whatever signal issues that's taking place. So, but for the most part, our engineers, our editors, our sound engineers were able to make it sound, what I think, pretty cohesive and pretty good. So you won't hear anything like you're on a cell phone and you're going under a bridge. Nothing like that. But we just like to give you all a heads up. Today's guest is Dawn Renee. Dawn Renee is a holistic caregiver who complements and integrates the practices of utilizing herbal medicine and holistic practices when helping, or I should say, while giving care to her patrons. So I think this is something that is going to be a very, very, very positive interview. Dawn actually founded an organization or a company called Traveling Caregivers. It's a grassroots, hope, faith-based organization. Is bridging the gap between balance of life while navigating a multitude of caregiving concerns with help. This is going to be an exciting interview. I just know it is, because first of all, Dawn is just a positive interview. I enjoyed the interview so much. I enjoyed the story of how she ventured and even started being a caregiver, which is something I think is going to be interesting to many of you out there, specifically in this time that we live in. Let's just deal with it. The time that we live in, who doesn't need a caregiver? Who doesn't need someone to give them some type of care, some type of love? You know what I mean? I mean, hey, look, I think we all could use a caregiver at times, one way or another, no matter what is going on. I know I could, so I think this is a great interview, and I just can't wait to get into it. The interview with Dawn Renee, who is actually a Renaissance woman within herself. She's an actress, she's a businesswoman, and she has a multitude of skills, an author, multitude of creative skills and abilities, which she's going to share coming up next in our interview with Dawn Renee, Traveling Caregiver. All right, guys, let's get into this. What's going on, everybody? It's Philly's #1 son. Listen, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's a creation tool that allows you how to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a stunning podcast in one place. So listen, if you want to be like me and have your own podcast, go to anchor.com. That's anchor.com.
You're now tuned in to the De La Fit podcast.
Dawn, are you there with us?
I am. Thank you for having me.
It is a pleasure to have you. How are you today?
I'm doing great. We're doing great.
Excellent. Yep. So let's get into this. How did you get into this amazing work?
Well, I would say that my whole life has been kind of staging me as a caregiver, from the time I was born. I was always the person that was taking care of the kids. Even when I was a kid, I was taking care of the kids. And then as I got older, I realized that I needed to take care of myself. So about 10 years ago, I was actually in a bed, couldn't move. My husband had to lift me up and take me to the bathroom, to the clinic, to go get checked in and checked out. And I couldn't hold my own weight because I had literally put myself in a bed with all of the stuff that I was dealing with. And I had endometriosis and diabetes type 2 and chronic fatigue and autoimmune disorder. And I mean, just everything compounded. And I was doing Reiki energy on a dog because I also heal dogs. And while I was healing the dog, I ended up having a gallstone attack, which is what started the whole triggering of me going down. And for 30 days, literally, I had to make a decision. Am I going to continue down the path that I've been going down? Because obviously it's not working for me. And I need to figure out what I need to do to get my strength back and get my health back and become a person that can give back to others again. And on that journey, I discovered that plant-based life was the best life for me. And I'd always been kind of holistic, and holistic just means that you're going to integrate holistic, natural ways of living into your life and try to reduce things that could be triggering stresses or inflammations, like foods or environmental toxins like Roundup and using detergents that are plant-based. And, then you can get into looking at your furniture and figuring out whether it's, organic or naturally. There's so many ways you can go to become holistic. And I would say that to anybody, it's not something that you do like overnight. It's not, you could, but it would be a lot of work to learn overnight. This has literally taken me, the last 20 years for me to get to this point where I'm at right now of being able to integrate everything to where I now actually grow my own food. We grow our own vegetables, we grow our own herbs, even through the winter, and, using essential oils to, sanitize the house or to put in my bath or, to invigorate my spirit. And then I also use that now to take care of the people that I've been taking care of, which is what started Traveling Caregivers. I was working at a holistic shop, and people would come in and sit down with us and tell us their whole problems that they were dealing with wellness, and we would sit there and try to figure out what might be triggering their stress, their inflammation, try to figure out how to get them back balanced, because each one of us has our own recipe. And so figuring out holistically how you can bring balance to a person's life through nutrition and avoiding things that might be toxic. And that includes people.
Very true.
And so, it's all about just figuring out holistically what's going to give you back that happy feeling within you that you feel complete and whole. I was sick for so long, and I'd gone to doctors for so long, and nobody could tell me that, I think it's this, and it's probably this, and then, we'll do a test, and then they found that. And then, one thing led to another. It wasn't that I just woke up one morning and all those things attacked me. It's that I was doing things to myself for years that were stressing my body out, that created inflammations that led to those disorders. And so in order for me to peel back the disorders, I had to figure out what was triggering them. And so it's been a journey, figuring that out. And as I was doing it for myself, I started doing it for others. And like I said, at the holistic shop, people would sit with us for like an hour and a half, and we'd go through their whole lives and help them put it back together again. And then that led me to where I'm at now. And I'm now taking care of a woman who has stage 4 ALS, and she's bedridden. So trying to give her back quality of life through holistic and all natural means, removing toxicity, because that's what got her in the bed to begin with. So it's all about identifying all of that, the triggers, and reducing them, and then rebuild.
Now, you work alongside the doctors as well, the physicians and things, or how does this work, this combination? Because I know many individuals, they have their own definition of holistic and natural, and sometimes it doesn't coincide with the truth of how things work. So could you just explain for the individuals that are listening how that works together, or if it works together?
Absolutely. This journey has also taught me how to be a huge advocate for patients and for myself, because like you said, you go into a doctor and you kind of trust everything a doctor says, but they have their purpose. There is a purpose for Western medicine, for surgeries and pills and all that. I'm just not a fan of doing all the pills, and I know a lot of people that are on 23 different types of medications, because in my thought of that is I could have been down that road too. I was actually going down that road. Doctors were prescribing medication to me. I actually had 3 surgeries on my endometriosis. And by the way, the surgery didn't correct the endometriosis. So I still had it after the surgeries. And it took me realizing that I needed to peel off the layers and get back down to just basics. Just like when you're a baby, when you come out of the womb, you don't start eating a bunch of things, and you don't start exposing a baby to a bunch of things. You want to give the baby time to grow into its immunity. Well, when you're continually being knocked by things as you're growing up, your immunity goes down. As your immunity goes down, it opens the door for all kinds of things to come in and attack you, like viruses and bacterias and all kinds of things like that. So you definitely need to look at how to integrate a more healthy lifestyle of a basic approach of fruits and vegetables. I know this is going to sound really crazy. Fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, things that come from outside that are live food, live body. And then how you pair that with your doctor is you go in and say, hey, this is what I'm doing. What do you think about this? And I can tell you right now that almost every time, and every person that I've ever worked with, the doctors always come back and said, this is a great plan, because they're looking at it from a more holistic approach. Well, some doctors are looking at it from a more holistic approach. And that's the other thing, is finding that doctor that you feel that is going to allow you to have that experimentation, because they're practicing on you too. That's
Right.
why it's called a practice. And so, it's all about taking what the good that you can from that they're bringing to you, and then really digging deep on what they're giving you. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to the hospital with the lady I work with, and a doctor prescribed something for her. The first thing I ask is, can you show me the ingredients? And can you show me all the side effects? And can you explain to me how this is not going to do her harm? And if you're telling me that this is not going to do her harm, and you can write it on a piece of paper and sign it for me that this is not going to do her harm, then I'll consider it. And I can tell you right now that even there's been some simple things that they've showed me that I'm like, okay, you can't give that to a person who has neurodegenerative disease. You just can't, because she's going to have a reaction. She has a neurodegenerative disease. Vaccinations would play completely on somebody who has a neurodegenerative disease, because there are compounds in it that can affect toxic wise that person. So how we've negated that is by boosting her immune system by looking at her biome and her gut and seeing what's going on there. You know, does she need more probiotics? Does she need more fermented foods? Does she need more things to help give that good bacteria back to the gut so that the body can function properly? And working with the doctors with that, you know, you're going to find doctors that are all in, and then you're going to find doctors that are going to stand behind what they believe in, and, you know, get a second opinion. Go get a third opinion. Go get opinions until you feel really good about what's being told to you and that you feel like the benefits outweigh the risks.
Now, it sounds like you're also an advocate for the people that you are giving caregiving as well. So explain a little bit about that. How does one find a good caregiver?
I would say that it's funny because how we came about is her and I had met 3 years prior to her falling from this ALS disease. And we didn't talk during those 3 years. And I want to say the universe brought me back to her because the universe kept putting me back in her world. And so it kept bringing us back together, And for me, it comes back down to an intuition or an intuitive or holistic thing that happened, that this person kept coming back into my life. And the second or the third time she came back into my life, I just threw my hands up in the air and I said, I will do whatever you need me to do. I will be your caregiver. And at that time, I wasn't taking on somebody 24/7. I was helping all kinds of people all the time, every day. And this person I came to, and it was this thing inside me that said, I need to be here to help this person, because I recognized in her that she really wanted to beat this. Her mindset on this whole thing is, I'm going to keep breathing, and I'm going to keep myself positive, and I'm going to keep tackling this every single day. And it is a struggle. It is the hardest battle you've ever seen, to watch somebody struggle with ALS, because they lose every bit of their muscles from the neck down. They have no way to move. They have no way to talk, no way to, communicate basically, except through their eyes. We do have a computer. The computer she can use and tell me things, but it wears her out, so she doesn't usually use it a whole lot. So it's a lot of, again, intuition and like looking at body language and feeling what I'm feeling from her, and then asking questions and then seeing how she responds with her body language or with her eyes. And for her to find me, I want to say it was just divine. It was divine timing. I would say for the caregivers that we've found since, I have gone through 20 caregivers to find 2 that I completely depend on, that I completely love, and that have completely been there for her. And they are like family to us. And it's hard to find that caregiver. So I would say that when you are interviewing or you want to talk to somebody about coming in to help you with your situation, is to find out where they are at with their own care. If they're caring for themselves, there's a good chance they're going to care really well for you. That's the one thing I discovered is as a caregiver, you have to put the mask on yourself first, because otherwise you can't be a good caregiver. And when I went down 10 years ago, that was the one thing that, kept ringing in my ears. You've got to be better. You've got to do better for yourself. How can you help anybody if you can't even help yourself? And right. So, right. And I know that sounds really, people say that and they're like, oh yeah, I can say that. But it really, when you get down to it, it's the truth. And, we all battle it. We all battle, oh, but that Twinkie looks really good. Or those M&Ms. Oh, I went through years of like getting off the sugar, and it took me a long time. And now I can absolutely look at that stuff as, oh God, I am not putting that in me. I know where that took me last time, and once you start taking care of yourself and see that in yourself, then it's a lot easier to care for others. And so, maybe a good starting conversation is asking the person what that person does in their spare time. What was their view on life? Are they optimistic or are they pessimistic? Are they hopeful or are they just in it for the paycheck? I actually interviewed somebody who on our first interview, and this is like one of the things when somebody says this to me, I can't hire them after they say this to me. The first thing they ask me is how many hours and how much they're going to make. And I'm looking at them like, okay, if that's your first concern, then we have an issue right off the bat, because your first concern is her, you know?
Right.
And now I understand
Right.
we have to know how much money we're going to make and all that, but it's more of how do we get down to a mindset where we're staying positive, keeping ourselves positive, because man, life is hard. It's hard for all. There's some days I don't even know if we're going to make it through the day, but we do. I'm, and that's no joke. And there's been many times, like, you know, in the situation, she has a trach. I have to do this thing called cough assist with her, which it evacuates her lungs of fluid that builds up. And if you don't evacuate the lungs, then she's going to drown and choke and die. So if you don't do it and you don't keep up after it and you're not being mindful of it and you're not putting her first, then you're not going to see that. And with that said, I also have to say this. It doesn't mean in the beginning let me back it up just a little bit. In the beginning, when I first met her, she would be on her buzzer because she could move her hands. And so she had the little buzzer that she would ring to get me. And literally I'd walk away and she'd ring the buzzer. And this happened all day long. So eventually I had to create a schedule. And I would post the schedule in front of her so that she would see when I was coming back and what she was going to be needing. And maybe we could start making our little time together more efficient, so that way I could get other stuff done around the house. Because
Right.
what was happening was the first couple of years, I lost myself again in caring for her. I lost myself so much in caring for her that I stopped caring for myself because I was caring so much for her. And so I ended up falling back down again with a hernia, a broken foot.
Wow.
Oh yeah. I mean, physically my body was giving up on me. And then I realized, okay, I can't do this alone. So we started looking for more caregivers. And I also realized that I needed to start setting boundaries with her so that she knew that she could trust that I was going to come back. She knew she was going to get her water and her food, and that I was going to give her massage, and that we were going to stretch, and that we were going to do these activities together, and that they were going to be ongoing throughout the day, and that I wasn't abandoning her when I'd have to go take care of stuff in the kitchen, or when I'd have to go take care of myself for 5 minutes.
Right.
So what it started to do was it created this way of working together that which she could trust, and that it would give me back some balance. And so for myself as a caregiver, I started writing myself a list every morning of 10 things that I needed to do for myself that day. So that way, every day I make sure I do those 10 things so that I can balance myself and take care of me and take care of her at the same time.
Now, I have a question I want to ask you, because I'm listening to what you're saying about her, and I'm curious as to where her family is, or her family is. Are they in this? Is she? Are you acting as her sole family? I'm just trying to. I want to know a little bit more, because now I'm interested in how they see it, and maybe what their role is, or maybe they're not there, or what have you.
It's hard because her family all lives in Nova Scotia, the majority of them. One of them lives in Australia, and another one lives in Rhode Island.
Okay. So they're not close enough. Okay.
They're not close. They do come and visit, and and they'll spend like 3 to 4 days at a time here. And it does, I mean, for the most part, they come and they do that with her. She misses them greatly, but to be honest, she doesn't want them caring for her. And that was made very clear to me from the very beginning. She said she did not want them to have to experience her this way. She's a very proud woman. She's a boss. She was a boss. She's always been a boss. And it was hard for her. So when they come to visit, we try to make it just like where they just come and they just hang out with her. They don't have to do anything. If they want to help me around the house and clean up the house, sometimes they'll come and clean the house. Sometimes they'll come and rake the leaves, because, all that stuff needs to get done too.
Right.
And so it's been very helpful. Her husband's here, so we have her and I virtually we trade off constantly, and especially during the pandemic and the quarantine, where it was primarily just us, we just trade off. We just keep trading off back and forth. Okay, I'm going to go do this. Okay, I'm going to watch Ann, and that's how we navigated, since March 23rd. and so you do what you have to do to make it work. And that's basically how we've managed to make it work. It's been 5 years now, that we've been together. And it's crazy, our story, how we all came together, and the instances that kept pushing us together. I'm also a singer and in a duo with my husband. And the first time that's
an actress,
right? So all these things that I've done, and I never thought that I would be a live-in caregiver. It was not on my scope that I was going to be a live-in caregiver. I actually was in sales and marketing for 14 years or 18 years, because then I opened my own company, and I still do sales and marketing. Even to this day, I still have clients that I take care of, and still doing the holistic stuff and trying to help people. It's just what I've always done, and it's been my way of giving back. And when I first met Ann and Marvin, it was our first night out singing, my husband and I. It was our first show, and a friend of ours, a mutual friend, brought them to see us to our show. And while we were up there singing, Ann's at the back of the room, and she's from Canada. My husband's from Canada. And he always says things that are not very politically correct. And so I'm always apologizing for him. And so I said, I'm sorry, he's from Canada. And everybody starts laughing. And then from the back of the room, you hear Ann, I'm from Nova Scotia. And so from that moment forward, as soon as the show was over, we sat and talked to them for a couple hours and got to know them. And then, like I said, we didn't see them until 3 years later, when we were at another gig at their best friend's restaurant. And the best friend of this restaurant doesn't know that we've met Ann and Marvin. And she's texting somebody saying, you've got to come see these two. You've got to come see these two. And he says, I'm in the hospital with my wife, and she has ALS, and they said she's not going to make it through the week, or let alone the next 6 months. I've got to stay. I don't know. I got to stay. And she says, no, you have to come meet these two. You have to. And she insisted. And because Ann and Marvin are both in TV broadcast and radio, so their friend thought they should come see us. And so she's like, well, you need to come see them. So Marvin says to Ann, is it okay if I leave for a couple hours? And Ann says, if she's being insistent, you need to go. You need to go. I'm going to be fine. I'm going to make it through the night. And so he comes out to see us. We're done with the show. And we end up talking to him for 2 hours after the show. While I'm talking to him, he's looking familiar to me, but I don't recognize him because he's put on so much weight.
Okay.
And so I didn't realize that it was Marvin. So he's telling us the story about his wife. He's telling all of this, that she's in the bed with ALS. And we say, can we come see her? Immediately, I just said, can we come see her? I want to come meet her. And so the next day we're in the hospital, and we come to meet her, and we find out she's having troubles putting on weight, like to the point where she's emaciated. I get to the hospital. She looks like a skeleton. She does not look like the person I met 3 years ago.
Right.
So we're sitting there talking to her, and she writes out on her phone, I'm from Nova Scotia. And it hits me that it's Ann and Marvin that I met 3 years ago.
Hey everyone, we hope that you're enjoying the interview thus far. We'd just like to take some quick time out to remind everybody to like, follow, share, and subscribe. With every like, follow, share, and subscription, it helps the De La Fit podcast to grow. And the more we grow, the more information we can bring to you, the listener. So please, take some time out, like, follow, share, and subscribe. Thank you.
It's just crazy, the coincidence or the synchronicities that pulled us together. And the other ironic part that happened is that during the interim of those 3 years, I had been taking care of somebody else who was a senior, 74 years old, and just as like an assistant, just helping him get things done. And they were helping him at night by taking him to dinner. And And he's a music guy, so they had done a music video for him. And we later found out, after I had been with them for a year, we found out that they had been taking care of the same person I had been taking care of. And it's just weird how the synchronicities brought us together.
Put you together. That's amazing. That is
to me, that's all holistic.
I just want to...
It's all intuitive. It's all just, you know...
It's a one big circle.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I just want to say something briefly, because you said something about your husband in Canada. So for the listeners out there, and I have a friend who is from Canada. I would say and Canadians, I have nice people, but also not many of them, at least again the ones I've met, they don't really. So.
Well, where'd you go?
I'll tell you, and it doesn't necessarily mean that that they are being mean. They're just not ones for holding back the truth. So I just wanted to
That's
put
exactly
that out
it right there. You know what? And we talk about it all the time, because apparently when Anne was speaking more, Anne was very blunt and to the point, and she's a no holds bar. She just lays the truth out there, and you either love it or you hate it, but that's just the way they are. And so it's been, I'm an empath and I'm a Libra and I'm sensitive. And so
those punches hurt, don't they?
Oh my gosh, they kill me. And so it's taken me, but you know what? I feel like they've been put in my life to give me a little bit more tougher skin, and to be a little stronger, and to, say, well, that's how they feel and that's how their perspective is, but that's okay. That's not me. It's not me. That's their perspective, not mine. And so I've just, and I appreciate it now, because you always know where you stand with them.
Which in today's climate is something that I think is much, much needed.
Yes.
You said something earlier, Dawn, that about how you organize the schedule, and I wanted to ask you, what systems can a caregiver put in place to make sure that they know what to do? It seems like one of the tips or one of the things you developed was that organization, that schedule. So what are some other things they can do?
Some other things that you can do is, immune boosting, stuff to boost your immune system. Keep yourself strong. We do vitamin D3, and we do zinc, and we do magnesium and probiotics. And we try really hard to make sure that we're doing things that are going to boost our immune system. The other thing is whether you pray or meditate, whatever your spiritual beliefs are or non-spiritual beliefs are, you can still sit quietly for 20 minutes in silence and just let the thoughts leave your mind, because that's when you let that happen and you clear that energy. When we're emotional, we can't see clearly. So clearing that energy just by being silent and present in the moment right now, and taking in everything that's around you and just existing, can really clear the energy out and help you see more clearly, and help you find a little bit more space to give you focus, on what it is
Right.
you want to accomplish in the day. Those are a few things that I would say.
What would be the appropriate terminology for a person you're taking care of?
It's funny because people, there's it's like, oh, do you say patient, or do you say friend, or do you say pals? Well, I say pals because she's a person with ALS, so it's PALS. But again, we're getting down to labels and like saying, like defining this relationship. And really all it is I'm a person that's holding space for somebody else to heal. I've decided to come in and be somebody that's I got your back. So, if we were in the military, I wouldn't leave you on the field. I would go out there and pick you up and take you with me, and so it's all about a perception, I guess. And for me, it's just I'm here holding space for each person that I work with, and I don't know. You can call it whatever you want to.
Okay, we'll simplify. We'll say the person you're giving aid to or care to.
Yeah.
All right. So break down, if you can, An average, no, that might not be particular, because I don't like to say average. It means that there's something taking place, like there's a conventional a conventional thing of what takes place. But break down how a day-to-day or a particular day is working with I forget what you said her name was again.
Her name Anne.
Anne. All right. Yeah. So a particular day with Anne, like your thoughts on what needs to be done and how you organize that.
For her, for me, or for the whole picture?
What I think you already put down the first part of for yourself, right? Because you identified about the fact of what you're doing as far as taking that time out, mentally. You also talked about the fact of you did create a schedule and how you do those things to keep yourself organized. So for somebody that's listening who's a caregiver,
sure.
All right, for somebody that might want to get into this type of work, or this type of I don't like you said, the label. I don't like labeling things like work, career, because it's a lot broader than that. But somebody that's interested in putting their energy into helping humanity,
right? How
would they begin to perhaps view this in their mind?
Well, definitely. So I would say this. First thing is you do have to start with yourself. So the first 2 hours in the morning, I always dedicate it to the activities that I need to get done for me, because I found that if I don't do that 2 hours, then I'm not going to do it the rest of the day, because you get things that happen, things get caught up or crop up, and you have to kind of be flexible. But then once you get your thing started, you want to look at your person and say, okay, if I'm going to get into caregiving and I want to care for somebody, first of all, why do you want to? Is this because you love to do it? Because I would tell you this, you have to love caring for people. You have to really want to give yourself to that person and be okay with, it's not necessarily a sacrifice, because when you love what you love it. And it doesn't really matter what you're, I guess, not doing or giving up in order to do it. So identifying to yourself why you want to do it and making sure that you are doing it for the right reasons. And then once you have done that, ask. I always ask the universe, ask God. Anne came into my life because 6 months prior I was challenged with the ice bucket challenge, which was for ALS. And when that happened, at that time, I didn't really know much about ALS, so I researched it. And then my husband and I made this comment. I wonder what it would be like if someone with ALS came into our life for us to help holistically. So you have to ask for it. You have to ask for it and be very specific. And if it's not what you want, if you really don't want this person with ALS to come into your life, don't ask for that. Or whatever you ask for, just be very specific and be very careful with what you ask for, because I'm telling you, it does work. I don't know if anybody heard of The Secret or not, but it works. It absolutely works in my life 100% all the time. And so when Anne came into my life and we found out she had ALS, it was another flag to me that I'm supposed to be a caregiver for this person. And it was no question in my mind. It just like a light bulb went off in my head that said, you're supposed to be a caregiver for this person. Okay, that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to go care for this person. And whether you want to care for one person or you want to care for multiple people and become a nurse or a doctor or whatever it is, you just have to ask. Ask for what it is. And then once you ask for what you want, start putting your intentions that way. Start intentionally thinking to yourself, or being aware, being mindful of situations that come around you, because you might be in a conversation with somebody and somebody says, yeah, so-and-so just fell and they just had a heart attack and now they're going to be at home for like a couple of weeks and they're going to need somebody to watch over them. That's your opportunity right there to speak up and say, I can help. And so, or a family member falls ill, or a friend, or a coworker. It's like paying attention to all these little things that crop up and being a yes when it happens. Because if you put it out there and you asked for it, when it shows up, It's kind of like saying, hey, I need a lifeboat. And then the boat shows up and you don't get in it because it didn't look like the way you wanted it to look. It's a dinghy. I was hoping for a yacht, but it's not like that.
It's not like that. You're right.
It's not. You just got to pay attention, be mindful, and then take the opportunity when it presents itself. And then, I've seen it happen many times where the opportunity has presented itself. I've watched it, I've witnessed it, where the opportunity has presented itself and the person has gone, yeah, but not today. And so then that opportunity goes off and goes away. And then another one showed up, right? So another one comes along and it still doesn't look the way that person is wanting it. Not today. And then the third time it shows up, I'm looking at the person, I'm saying, do you not see that this is like right in front of your face right now? Yeah, this is your golden opportunity. Jump in. If this is what you really want, take it. And they did. And then they're like, whoa, I had no idea. It just never know where it's going to lead you.
That's very true. That's extremely true. And I've lived that myself. And, yeah, I know you're right because I've lived through it myself. And when you hear that calling, first of all, when you hear the calling of something that you are supposed to do, and I'm saying that calling, but I it's really, at least for me, a spiritual voice. When you hear it, you're like, whoa, wait a minute, okay, all right. Sometimes it'll throw you off guard, but then when you're in. When it comes up, what you're supposed to be doing, I'm just going to tell you, it feels like you've been shot forward very, very fast.
Absolutely.
It moves so fast. What would be the difference between a holistic caregiver and a nurse?
The difference is just, really it depends on the nurse, because I've met a lot of nurses that are holistic. A holistic caregiver isn't going to have a certification, isn't going to be trained by the medical system. They're going to be somebody that just decided to start caring for people, or maybe they come from a long line of family caregivers because I actually have one here that her mom was a caregiver and her mom was a caregiver. And so, being a holistic caregiver just means that you've adopted the principles of applying and integrating natural things, plants and trees and
right.
natural organic cotton, organic hemp, bamboo, all kinds of natural materials in your life. And you're dismissing toxicity. You don't want that in your life.
Now, Dawn, we always have people that are they don't bring the most open-minded spirit. So
yeah.
Those individuals just like, I'm not gonna make a joke, because sometimes I do my own little voice of them, and somebody's like, it's not really the nicest thing to do. I'm like, oh, okay, all right. So I'm not gonna do the voice, all right. But
yes.
You have those individuals that'll come about and it's like, what's with all the organic talk, or
I know,
that
right? Sounds
like quote unquote tree hugger love and hippie talk, or mumbo jumbo. Like what and how do you deal with individuals who are bringing that type of energy to a situation? What do you do, and how do you? Because first, have you dealt with that or ever been introduced to that by individuals? And if you have, how do you deal with that?
My whole life. My whole life. I've been called all those things. I've been called Florence Nightingale, Pollyanna, tree hugger. I've been called it all because, and this is the way I look at it. What's wrong with hugging a tree? Okay, first of all.
Exactly.
And second of all, why are you scared of it? And third of all, where do you think all your medications came from? And
right.
And then, fourth of all, if they didn't practice on people back in the day, we wouldn't have all these technologies and ways of manipulating everything. And all I'm saying is that if it's possible to use all natural alternative means, then why not try it first? Then jumping into the whole slew of things that can bring you so many side effects and really hurt your body. Because, and this is what I just told my own father. So just like a couple weeks ago, I said, you know what? Because I've been trying to profess this holistic lifestyle on my family, and they're all very much, I'm going to do what I want to do. And I'm like, that's great. I love you. I love you. I love you. And I'm just letting you know that what you're doing is you're taking your body down slowly, and you're just giving yourself a slow and painful death. And I mean that with all the love in my heart. There's not anything in me that means anything but love in that statement right there. And I'm not saying that you can't like raise your vibration to a level of so high that you can transmute all those toxicities. But when you're compounding toxicity on top of toxicity, eventually your body breaks and you start having problems. And with my own journey of healing myself, because I was so sick for so long that now I will stand on top of a mountain and I will scream at the top of the mountain that this works, everybody. This has worked for me. And maybe it might work for you. And what do you have to lose by trying? You have everything to gain by trying it. And most of the times, the stuff that I profess is free. Like breathing exercises. It's free. All you have to do is breathe. And how does that help your immune system? Well, there's a specific type of breathing system that can actually help your body oxygenate it to the point that it helps get rid of the bacteria and the pathogens that are trying to take over, because we're 90% bacteria. So it's just whenever that stuff comes up, I just come back with, you know what? I'm proud to say that I am a tree hugger. Actually, I hugged a tree just 2 days ago. I did. I said, does everybody want to see how you love on a tree? I walked right over to it and hugged it. And if we cut all the trees down, it would cut down and deplete our oxygen. And we're already depleting our hydrogen. Our hydrogen's so depleted we have to breathe hydrogen. It's part of our makeup, but it's depleting and we're deficient. So, when we do these things, there is a ripple effect that happens. And I'm not saying that, we shouldn't have technology. I say we should do it smarter, and we should be wiser, and we should have limits. We should have some kind of a limitation. Like if you know that if you drink, let's say, 2 vanilla milkshakes, there's a real good chance you're going to get a tummy ache. Okay.
Right.
So you're not going to do that, right?
You shouldn't. I'm not going to say I haven't seen it done.
But I have. Yeah, exactly. But what I'm saying is, if you know that if you take so many trees out of the ecosystem, and that's going to deplete so much oxygen, and that's going to affect how much oxygen and hydrogen we have to breathe, then maybe we should talk about how many trees we're allowed to cut down, and maybe we should be wiser about how we're doing it. Our body is a universe, and we should take care of it as such, because it's the only one we got. We can't go down to the car lot and pick up a new one.
That's very true. Dawn, for everybody that's listening, I'm sure there's some people that want to know, how is your health doing with all of the changes that you've made? I really don't feel I need to ask, because I sense I can hear it in your voice. But tell us, how are you doing with your health? Feeling?
I feel better than I felt in years. and I eat plants and I eat plants, fruits, vegetables, nuts and seeds. Yep. I do not eat meat, and I feel great, and I feel amazing. It's been an amazing journey. I wish this for everybody. I wish this right here, because how I felt to how I'm now, I would only wish this on everybody.
Let's talk a little bit about where people can find more, find more information about you and what it is that you're doing, about your organization, about also you're an author.
I'm working on it. I'm almost there. It's not quite finished yet, but it's coming together. through this journey, I have been journaling as part of my journey to try to figure out what my recipe was, because each one of us has our own individual recipe. There's no one box to put everybody in. There's no magic pill. And the miracle that we're all looking for is inside of us. It's inside of us, each and every one of us. And so the journal that I've been working on, I decided to take it and all the tools that I have been using through the years to figure out my own self, to heal my own traumas, because I had post-traumatic stress. I had a bunch of traumas that I needed to heal from. And, so energetically, emotionally, physically, nutritionally, environmentally, I've been keeping track of all the things that keep me feeling happy and all the things that make me sad. And so I said, well, why not make something that might be some kind of a journal that could have a key in the back to help people do the same for themselves. And so I'm taking all my tools and they're in this journal, and it's called I Care. I create, ask, receive, and expand is what it's about. And it's about helping each one of us find the caregiver within.
I love that. When will this be available for us to read? I
am hoping that it will be out here in the next month. So probably about the end of July.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. That sounds great. So where can people find, are you on social media? Are you against social media? Where can people, do they find you?
Yes, they can find me. You know what, as far as social media, I have to use it because it's a tool of communication. I don't really always like the way everybody's using it, the way it's being used, but I use it for good and for light work and trying to, profess the caregiver within and to help inspire somebody to love. And I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, and then I do have my website, which is travelingcaregivers.com, and it's all Instagram, Traveling Caregivers, Facebook, Traveling Caregivers. If you are a caregiver and you're looking for some support and you want to talk to me, I have a support group too that you can go and sign up for on my Facebook and come and ask questions. It's private. It's just caregivers only. So it's where caregivers can come and share information, share their experiences, share what they need help with, if they want to vent, any of that stuff. I'm always available to help with that. And so that'll be all up on the website and in Facebook and Instagram.
Dawn, first I want to thank you for coming on to the show. I've enjoyed this conversation immensely. It took us a while to get here, but you know what? I've always found out the best things sometimes take the longest. So I'm so glad that you were able to come on to the show and speak with us. 3 things. This is something we often do here on the show. 3 things, 3 tips, 3 thoughts that you would like the listeners to take away from this interview.
3 things. Let's see. Number 1, meditation and breathing. If you have YouTube, I'm sure everybody has YouTube, go look up Wim Hof, Wimhof. Wim Hof breathing is a technique for helping you breathe. This can help calm your mind. It can help you through anxiety. It can help you through depression. It can help you with PTSD. And then meditating. Another thing that would be great if you are wanting to be a caregiver, then ask for what you want and be very specific about what you want. And then the third thing would be be mindful. Be mindful about what's coming to you and try and recognize when those things are coming to you and they're asking of you. Since you asked for it to show up, be mindful of it when it shows up and just by being present. That's all it is be right here, right now. There's only one time and it's right now.
Everyone, holistic caregiver, singer, actress, Dawn Renee. Thank you so much for coming on to the De La Fit podcast. We appreciate you greatly.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being on. I love what you guys are doing. This is great.
We'll be back after these messages. Hey, you, with the earbuds in their ear. Have you ever wanted to start your own podcast? When I was trying to get my podcast off the ground, I had a lot of questions. How do I record an episode? How do I get my show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the other places people like to listen? How do I make money from my podcast? The answer to every one of these questions is really simple. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now Anchor can match you with great sponsors too, so you can get paid to podcasts. I like to upload my episodes directly to the app and then promote. So if you've always wanted to start a podcast, make money doing it. Go to anchor.fm/start to join me in the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast. I'd like to take the time out to thank Dawn for being a guest on the show. I really like that interview, and I love the energy that Dawn brings. She has such a caring and loving personality, and her energy exudes from across, through the microphone and just through the devices that we're using. The ways and things that the tools that she was giving us and the explanations where it comes to being a caregiver and understanding that the first thing that is paramount if you're going to be a caregiver, and that's to anybody, that's no matter whether you're a caregiver by trade or profession, or if you're just a caring individual, is care for yourself. Care for yourself. I love that. I love the fact how Dawn was able to make that as one of her main speaking points. Care for yourself. You have to care for yourself. You can't help anybody if you don't care for yourself. Love yourself. Help yourself. I think there was a saying many years ago, physician, heal thyself. Because if you can't heal yourself, then how you gonna heal somebody else? Let's just be honest. It's just common sense if you think about it. Although common sense hasn't been common since common was common sense. But I love that interview. I think it was so poignant, truthful, and what is very much needed in today. We need a lot of truth. You know what? Let's take a little step back, just to talk about this. I know we're about to segue to the end of the show, but let's be honest. One of the things that the world does need now, besides love, sweet love, is truth. And I think that's what so much, I don't want to say controversy. I think that's what so much energy and frustration is about. It's because of years of untruths, lies, pardon me, and just ill treatment, dysfunction, miscommunication being perpetuated continuously without being taken care of, without being resolved. And that's what it is that we're dealing with right now. Even when it comes to pandemic life, think of it. I know many of us out there are like, well, how can that be true? But if we really were to focus on our health the way we need to focus on our health, if we really were to be as focused on the fitness, mental, physical, spiritual health that we all need, do you think that this pandemic would have came about? I don't think so. I'm going to throw it out there to everybody. Do you think the pandemic would have come about, coronavirus, if we would have been focused on our truth, on our fitness, on our health? These are my reasons why I think it wouldn't have. One, I think numero uno, if we were truly focused on our fitness and health, then most of us would already be focused on always boosting our immune system, making sure our mental health is stable, is consistent, taking mental health breaks, making sure that we continue positive movement, whether it's exercise, a daily walk, some type of physicality, dancing, swimming, jumping rope, playing with your children, something that's going to keep you moving, that keeps the blood pumping, positive, or rather holistic food thinking, mindfulness when it comes to our food. Because the thing of it is that food is our first line of defense. It's our first medicine. And if we're not focused on what it is that we're putting into our mouths, which can't always be overly processed, full of sugar, full of sodium, and other things that I can't even spell or pronounce. If we focus more on these things, if we focused on that, and really focused on that, not to mention focusing on keeping things clean, keeping things organized, which still goes back to our mental health, because you can't even begin to organize your own space if you don't have an organized mind. It's just not going to take place. It's not. So again, do I think the pandemic would have come about if we were really focused on our fitness and health? No. Do I think that sickness and illness would still be around? Yes. I think that's just part of the nature of things. There's always a resistance. There's always a duality. There's an up, there's a down, there's a left, there's a right, there's a wrong and a right, or positive and negative energy. So I think, yes, there's always going to be something, because one helps another for the overall balance. So these are things I think about. But what do you think? That's what I'm really interested. What do you guys think? Do you think that the pandemic would have come about if we focused more on our health, our fitness and health as a whole? Really focus on it? Or do you think that there's no point, son, it would have came about no matter what? It's always come about. We've had these things before. Because some people say that it was inevitable. No matter what we did, it was just going to happen. You can't stop it. It's going to happen anyway. I don't know, but I'm anxious to hear from you. And if you have an opinion about this, please hit us up on our email at delafit13@gmail.com, or you can go to our website, which is www.delafitpodcast.com. Go to the comment section, leave a comment, or you can hit us up on our Instagram, which is DE_LA_fit podcast. Also, I've been told to tell you all about my Instagram, which is, it's Philly's Finest riding by, blazing the siren in there. I don't know if you all picked that up or not, but I've been told to start promoting my Instagram or social media as well, which can be found _body_alchemist, spelled ALKAMIST. That's right. So you can follow me there, ask questions there. We check it. I check mines daily, and all about that life. Also, the Twitter. You can follow the De La Fit Podcast at De La Fit Podcast at Twitter, or at Twitter at De La Fit Podcast. And we are also on Facebook at De La Fit Podcast. So hit us up. I'm anxious to see what you all have to say about that topic. Would the pandemic have come about if we focused on our fitness and health? So much to think about when it comes to that. We're going to get ready to end it here. I hope that all of you have a beautiful, healthy weekend and a beautiful week coming up. I hope that positivity, I hope that all of the good energies that you can muster that we can muster as a whole can help you throughout your week, because I'm sure there will be trials and tribulations. There's always trials and tribulations. There's always things to do. But the biggest thing is to remember that this is going to always be a consistent thing for us on this plane of manifestation. There's always going to be something. How we deal with it, how we learn to deal with it, how we learn to pump that mental weight, that spiritual weight, so that our bodies can continue to build its spiritual, mental, physical muscle. That's the most important. How are we going to continue to do that? We have to do it the right way, by practicing a mindfulness way of life. As always, please remember to treat yourself the best you can. Be fair with yourself. Be balanced with yourself. Tell yourself when you don't know something. Be honest with yourself. If you're honest with yourself and you treat yourself with love and caring, I feel totally confident in saying this. I know that you're going to treat somebody else the same way. Why? Because your actions are proving that if you can treat yourself good, you know how to treat somebody else good as well. As always, peace, love, be safe.
You've been listening to the Delafit podcast. Ta-ta for now.